Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Sources of energy. Today we will be discussing the various sources of energy. All the available sources of energy on earth are broadly categorized into two types. One are the renewable sources of energy and another are the non-renewable sources of energy. What are these? We already must be aware. Those sources which are able to be renewed. That means those sources of energy which will not exhaust even after utilizing them again and again. They are known as renewable sources of energy, and these are also known as inexhaustible sources of energy as they do not exhaust. Fine. The non-renewable sources of energy are those sources of energy which are not able to be renewed. Means once they finish off, they will not be able to renewed, and that is why they are known as exhaustible sources of energy. Right? We have a lot many examples in mind. Let us take up about the non-renewable source of energy. We know that all our fuels that we use today, whether it is coal or petroleum, they are the non-renewable sources of energy because they are in limited amount. Fine, we will be studying up a bit in detail about these. And renewable sources of energy, we are considering it the solar energy, then the water energy, the wind energy. Right. These are a few examples of renewable sources of energy. The sun has been shining for the past 5 billion years approximately, and we expect another 5 billion years for the sun to provide us the same kind of energy that it has been providing. So, I don't think we need to worry about the solar energy being exhausted because 5 billion years lot of amount of time. Similarly, water and wind energy are also considered to be renewable sources of energy. In this particular topic, we will be studying about the details of these various types of energy. First of all, we will be considering the energy of fossil fuels, the energy we obtained from fossil fuels. These fossil fuels are the conventional sources of energy that we have been using since ages. So, these are the conventional sources of energy or the traditional sources of energy. First of all, we need to relate what are fossil fuels. These are two different terms to be understood separately. Fuels, what are fuels? Anything which is burnt to liberate energy, to obtain energy, they are known as fuels. And what are fossils? These are the remains of the dead and decaying plants and animals. So, in millions of years time, the remains of dead decaying plants and animals which were buried deep under the earth, they were converted into fossil fuels. Actually, that was all the organic matter. We have studied in previous classes that those dead plants and animals, they got buried, they could not be decomposed properly, and that is why they got into the deeper layers of the earth. Over there, anaerobic decomposition took place and they were converted into carbon forms by the process known as carbonization and other reasons. So, ultimately these fossil fuels were formed. Now, these fossil fuels have taken millions of years to be formed, and these fossil fuels include coal, it includes petroleum and natural gas. Now, these fossil fuels are being utilized by us today. We use this coal, we use natural gas, we use petroleum products in all almost our energy sources directly or indirectly, and the rate at which we are consuming them is very fast, and that is why we are more concerned, as these are non renewable sources of energy. They cannot be renewed back, fine, and that is why we are concerned about the degradation at the rate at which they are degraded. Let us study a bit more about these fossil fuels. First of all, about coal. In 10th class, we are not concerned about coal and the types of coal that you have studied earlier about the bituminous and anthracite and lignite and peat, etc. We just need to remember that this particular coal is a solid fuel. When it burns, the problem is it produces smoke and ash, right. Another thing, it has comparatively a lesser calorific value. That is why we do not prefer coal to be used extensively as a normal commercial fuel, right. When it comes to petroleum, we have studied in 9th class that petroleum is a compact mixture of many compounds. Among these compounds, when we did the fractional distillation of petroleum in 9th class, we saw that various components were there, whether it was petrol or diesel or heavy oil, wax, fuel oil, heavy oil, asphalt, so many things. There were so many things. Out of these, petrol and diesel, mainly we are aware of these two, they are used in our commercial vehicles and all the vehicles that we use, fine. Now, this petroleum, all the products, since the consumption rate because of the increasing human population has been increased to a drastic rate, that is why there has been a scarcity, a position of energy crisis that we are facing today, and that is what we are concerned about, fine. Next is natural gas. This natural gas is found everywhere above petroleum. Wherever there are deposits of petroleum, we get the natural gas on the top of it. This natural gas has widely been used nowadays in the form of CNG. What is this CNG? This is compressed natural gas, that is widely being used nowadays for our vehicles. Why? Because of many reasons. The first and the foremost important reason is this is a good source of energy. It has a good calorific value, means it provides a lot of energy while burning. Next thing is it is a clean fuel. Alright, let us write up. It has high calorific value. It is a clean fuel. It does not produce harmful gases. Mainly this CNG contains methane, which is an excellent fuel, and along with that a bit of ethane plus propane. They are all good fuels. They are all clean fuels. Whenever they are combusted, whenever they are burned, they just produce carbon dioxide, water, and along with that they produce energy. So, they are clean fuels. Another important thing is they are gaseous fuels, that is why they do not leave behind any residue, they do not produce any smoke, they do not leave behind any ash, and that is why they are considered to be good fuels, all these gases, and the mixture is known as CNG. You need to know the full form, compressed natural gas. There is one more advantage of this CNG. It does not require any kind of processing. The form in which this CNG is obtained from nature, it can be directly used as it is. This is also one of the great advantages of using CNG. Fine. Now, among this petroleum, I would like to get a bit of detail of one thing. That one thing is petroleum gas, that is LPG. Now, this petroleum gas, which is just a byproduct or a constituent of raw crude petroleum, this is compressed by liquefying it, and this is what we used in our houses, in our kitchens as domestic fuel. Now, why this LPG is used? LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. You need to know the full form too. This is liquefied. How it is liquefied? By putting a lot of pressure, by compressing it. This is liquefied petroleum gas. This is an excellent domestic fuel. Reasons all that we have already studied in good sources of energy. What are the reasons? Number one, it is a gaseous fuel, leaves behind no ash, doesn't produce any smoke, doesn't produce any poisonous gas, calorific value is quite high, it is easy to store, easy to handle, right, easily accessible. All these factors make LPG a very good fuel. Now, one thing for your knowledge, you need to remember that this LPG is a highly inflammable gas, means it catches fire very easily. And a drawback is this LPG, first thing, it is inflammable. It catches fire easily, and another drawback is it is odorless. It doesn't have any smell of its own, and that is the problem. If there is a leakage of LPG, it will go undetected and it can be very harmful. Therefore, what we have done is we have added in our domestic cylinders, we add one substance which is known as ethyl mercaptan. This is for your knowledge, you must know, you must have studied in previous classes. Ethyl mercaptan, the formula is C2H5SH. This is also known as ethyl sulfur hydrogen. This ethyl mercaptan has a unique, peculiar smell, and that is what we came to know. Whenever there is a leakage in our houses, we can just in a fraction of a second we can make out that yes, the domestic LPG cylinder is leaking. That smell is not of LPG, that is of ethyl mercaptan, which has been specifically added to LPG to detect its leakage. Got it? So, this is all about, we will be studying about fossil fuels. Now, these fossil fuels have been used till now for all our purposes. We have been using wood, we have been using coal. The coal has led to industrialization, global industrialization and technological advancement. But the problem is this fossil fuel is not only in limited quantity and getting exhausted, but there are other certain harmful effects also. And what are those harmful effects? We need to see the harmful effects of burning fossil fuels. Combustion of fossil fuels pose a threat to the environment because of the pollution caused by it. It's very important to understand how the fossil fuels pollute our environment. Now, these fossil fuels, they contain first of all traces of sulfur, nitrogen, etc. When these fossil fuels are burnt, then along with energy, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon dioxide gases are produced, and these gases are acidic. What do I mean by saying acidic? When these gases are produced, these gases react with water present in the atmosphere and they form acid. This acid comes back to earth in the form of acid rain. Now, this acid rain is harmful. Why? Number one, because it makes the soil acidic and non-fertile. Then it is also harmful for all the marble statues and monuments. Fine. So, this is the first problem caused by the burning of fossil fuels. Second very important thing is release of carbon dioxide. Whenever you are burning any fuel, any fossil fuel, carbon dioxide will be liberated. It is must, because these fossil fuels are carbon compounds. These are organic compounds. They were formed by the dead plants and animals, right? So this carbon dioxide is in itself a great problem, because this is a greenhouse gas. What is meant by greenhouse gas? This particular carbon dioxide helps in global warming. Now, this global warming is, we have been studying it since 5th class. Global warming, most talked about, hottest topic of discussions and concerns since a lot of years, that is the heating up of the Earth's atmosphere. Now, the drawback is, the problem, the possible threat is that if the Earth continues to warm up like this only, if the temperatures are going to increase like this only, then all the polar ice is going to melt, which is already being done at a very fast pace. Due to that, if that polar ice is melting, then there will be a rise in the sea level, and that will lead to the submergence of all the low lying areas, causing destruction, devastation, and a huge loss of life and property. So, we need to relate the decreased emissions of carbon dioxide. This is also very important problem. Another problem caused by burning of fossil fuel is that if there is incomplete combustion, then carbon monoxide is formed, which is a poisonous gas. Sulfur dioxide is also a choking gas, suffocating gas, right? So, these also pose a threat to other animals and human beings. Another reason, when we burn the fossil fuels, smoke is produced. This smoke, along with fog, it forms smog, and when we inhale this smog, there are various respiratory diseases that we suffer from, bronchitis, asthma, etc. So, there are various respiratory disorders or diseases caused because of the pollution caused by burning of fossil fuels. So, to name a few, these are the various hazards or the problems of burning of fossil fuels. How can we restrict? How can we rectify it? There can be certain provisions we can do, certain steps that we can take. What are the various steps? On the initial level, the very important thing that we have to do, we must do, all of us, should be afforestation. We should plant more and more trees. Why? Because these trees, they are carbon dioxide intakers. They will take the carbon dioxide from atmosphere for performing their photosynthesis process, and hence they will lead to decrease in our global warming. Second thing, we just want that when these fossil fuels are burned, these fuels should not produce harmful gases. They should be completely burnt in order to produce less harmful gases. Like what we do is, we use catalytic converters in all the vehicles. So, when a vehicle is moving and the fuel is getting burned, if the fuel is not getting burned properly or there is an incomplete combustion, then what do these catalytic converters do? They will catalyze and they will completely burn the fuel so as to produce non-toxic gases like carbon dioxide. Even though carbon dioxide is responsible for global warming, but still it is non-poisonous, and that is why it is still tolerable to have carbon dioxide rather than gases like carbon monoxide, which are very toxic. Fine. Similarly, what we try to do is, in factories etc., all these gases which are being produced like carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide, we flush all these gases in water to make them soluble in water, so that lesser amount of these gases should go into the atmosphere, and then we can get rid of these particular dissolved gases in water in one way or another. So, these are a few methods by which we can try to control the pollution caused by burning of fossil fuels. Fine. Now, these fossil fuels have been utilized many places in order to generate electricity. How? That is what we are going to see. Let us do an activity. What we will do is, in our activity, we will try to make a simple household generator, right. Just take a tennis ball and just have 3 cuts formed in that. This is an activity, you can do it in your home also, and in these 3 cuts just put small blades. Fine. Connect this particular tennis ball with a dynamo and connect this dynamo with a bulb. Now, we know that in this dynamo, when this particular connecting shaft will rotate, then in that case there will be electricity generated in this dynamo. Dynamo is a generator, right. You must have studied in magnetic effects. Over there we have seen how electricity is generated with the help of a dynamo or a generator, AC generator, DC generator. So, this generator will generate electricity and the bulb will glow. Now, the whole point is somehow to rotate this particular shaft, and this shaft is rotated by connecting it with these blades of the tennis ball. When the blades of the tennis ball will rotate, then in that case this shaft also will rotate, causing electricity to be generated. Now, in order to rotate the blades, what we do is we take a pressure cooker and water is just heated up in this pressure cooker in order to form a steam. Now, with the help of this steam pipe, this steam, the energy in the steam is used to run the blades. Fine. So, when we are just running the blades of this so called tennis ball, then this shaft will also rotate, causing electricity to be generated. So, this is the basic rotor blade assembly that we have formed over here. This is the concept of generating electricity. Whenever we have to generate electricity, we have to connect it with a shaft, and the whole main thing purpose is to rotate this shaft. Now, this rotation may be caused by various ways which we will be studying. Fine.